But I think right now what we want to do is head on over and do the news. Hey everybody, my name is Clyde and welcome to Clyde Plays News. Our top story today is a whole bunch of new ships, a Nipsey Russell of new ships from various countries, including España. We got some Spanish ships coming in, but first, let's jump over to this story right here. This is all about the early access to the European destroyers that we've been waiting on ever since they announced these boats here a little while back. This is happening, it says in update 12.4. So right now we are in update 12.2. 12.3 is just around the corner. And so the patch following that, we will see the early access to the European destroyers. Check out this early access premium camouflage you can get for Gdansk. Just like we do with the other early access things, you can usually get one of these cool camouflages for the 8, 9, 10 of the line. Sometimes they go as low as the 7 or 6 or something. It does say here though that it will be for tiers 8 through 10. So in honor of the event, thematic permanent camos will be available for the 8, 9, and 10. There's also been a permanent flag added, which we can see here in this little box in the middle of the screen. And then they've updated the Fjords port to have all kinds of cool stuff on it, like a train and this cool glass train station. I'm excited that Fjords is going to be our themed port for this because everybody loves the Fjords port. It's got the best lighting in the game. And so what a cool thing. Hopefully the train and the bridges and everything don't get in the way of what we like to do with that one. Convoys are coming back in 12.4 in a 12v12 format, using ships from tiers 8 to tier 10. And they've updated it. They've added some new maps, including Haven. And they've updated the bot behavior. Transport ships are now going to change their speed to attempt to dodge torpedoes instead of changing their course. So rather than going left, right, or whatever, they're just going to slow down and speed up, which is kind of interesting. They've got a screenshot here of convoys. I think we know what to expect for convoys. Things may change, of course. Repeated battle entry with the same ship. This is a feature that a lot of people have been rather excited about. That is coming up in update 12.4. We're going to introduce a new feature, it says here, that will allow players to enter a new battle with a ship that was just destroyed without having to wait for the current battle to conclude. When you were new to World of Warships and you logged in and you took your ship into battle and then you came back to port and you tried to click battle again and you're like, why won't it let me go? They're taking away that restriction. In other words, your ship will be available to you even if it was in a match that is still continuing on, which is an odd behavior that warships used to have, and now they're doing away with that. This way you'll be able to fight more battles playing your favorite ship during a game session, and this option should help you speed up your progress on your favorite ships as well. I think this is a good change. I also think it's the kind of change that's going to let players get to tier 10 even faster. It won't be any faster in terms of minutes of game played, but it will be faster in terms of hours sitting at the computer. I don't know if that will result in a problem or not. You know, I think it'll be fine, and I personally will enjoy it because I'll be able to play my ships a lot more often. And if I wanted to try them again, I tend to bounce around, play a lot of different ships, but for people who want to do consecutive ships, things like that. Helmet in chat says useful for ranked. Absolutely, that is a fantastic place to be excited about that change coming in. We've also got the announcement of Kleber CLR. CLR stands for color because it's one of these color or CLR camouflages. This one is yellow and black. Actually looks really kind of cool. And it's got similar parameters to Kleber, but with a unique appearance. The Kleber CLR, there it is. And she's got a flag here that looks pretty cool. There's a new temporary resource, colorful tokens, and a new regatta container. Now, we're not sure, at least I haven't heard anything yet about how they're going to use these colorful tokens. There might be some information out there that I'm not aware of, but that's happening, and I'm going to assume it's going to give us some way to unlock these color ships. Who knows? The colorful regatta container contains these types. It's got a 3-slot giveaway, so there's an item in slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, assuming this is like other containers that they've done. And then you'll get a chance to get 10, 20, or 200 colorful tokens, a bunch of credits or XPs or coal or doubloons. The 15,000 doubloons and the 5,000 coal kind of make me wonder if this is a paid for container or a very limited access container. Also, for those of you particularly good at math, if you add this all up, it adds up to 100.2% or something. So there's a slight math error here. I'm hoping they figure that out and fix it pretty soon. And now our next story, let's move on to story number 3. This one right here is all about the changes to super containers. Initially, when I read this article, I said, okay, they're changing the super containers. And I looked at the math, and the math doesn't seem unreasonable in some cases. So some of the contents of the super containers have changed, and not necessarily for the better. And then the other thing that is different about this as we look to the future is essentially you're going to get super containers twice as often. And as a general rule, they're going to give you half as much stuff. So you're going to get more super containers, but you get half as much loot out of them. Although there are some differences. The old super containers had things like 30 days of premium. I think they had 2 different pots of dubs that you could get. Whereas the new super containers only has the small pot of dubs, things like that. Largely, most of the things have been cut in half because you're going to get twice as many, and that's fine. What sort of sucks about that, though, is there are times a year when we don't get twice as many, right? When we get to the birthday month, when we get to the holiday season, and we get a chance to unlock a super container for all of our ships of a certain tier or category of tiers, we're going to still get 1 super container, and it's going to be half as good as the super containers that we got in the past. Now, it's possible that when we look in the future to birthday events and to holiday events, they're going to give us something other than super containers in those slots. Maybe, as someone I think on my Discord suggested this afternoon, a super duper container will be an option, or something like that. So I think for your day-to-day, I got a random super container, the change is probably pretty negligible. But I think for those big events where we get a lot of super containers, they're still going to give us, you know, say you would have earned 12 super containers last year, you're going to get 12 super containers next time probably, and it's going to have half as much loot in it. So that's a thing to watch for. I am working on a little simulation. I'm going to write some code that runs through and opens, let's say, 1,000 old super containers and 2,000 new super containers, and adds up all the loot. And we'll take a look at what comes out of the old magic calculation machine as soon as I'm done writing it. And I'll share that data with you guys at some point. But for now, I don't have that completed. It's a little bit more than I could crank out in an hour or so. So I'll work on that a little bit more, and I'll make a short YouTube video or something about that. So keep your eyes on my YouTube channel for that content. So at the end of the day, it's a bit of a nerf when we get a static number of super containers, but your day-to-day, I get super containers sometimes, is probably going to be largely unaffected, at least in my initial read. We'll find out a little bit more when we do more math on the subject. But now, let's go back and check out our top story. Today, our top story is all about new ships. Whenever we have new ships, it tends to be the top story, because that tends to be something that most people are somewhat interested in. And what we have here is an announcement about the Spanish cruiser line that was teased in a Waterline video however long ago. Now it says here we've got a branch of Spanish cruisers that are added to the game for testing, as well as the, I'm going to try it guys, the Dutch cruiser Van Speijk. Can I need a Dutch person that sits right here, and I just ask them to say the Dutch words. Speijk? I think it's Speijk. Bram says he thinks it's Speijk as well. Bowmaster says don't try that again. All of the people who speak Dutch, I'm sorry. I need to apologize to Seraphis specifically. Wait, is that where he's from? Anyway, let's move on. The German cruiser Schill and the Pan-Asian destroyer Lushun. These both look pretty cool too. We'll get to them in a minute. Let's take a look at these Spanish cruisers first. It says the branch relies on main battery guns with a good firing range. Now, Wargaming always provides kind of a rosy description of every ship that comes out, and then of course they'll change in testing. So anything we say about these ships today, make sure we take with a little bit of a grain of salt, and we keep our eyes on what's going to happen as we continue on. They rely on their main battery guns with good firing range. They're also armed with torpedoes that have a short range. The ships have a good concealment, but mediocre maneuverability. Starting from tier 7, they gain the access to the burst fire alternative mode, just like we've seen on the Alvaro de Basson as well, which additionally increases AP shell penetration and damage. Now they've tried a funny button that increased things like pen or whatever, and they dialed that back in the past. I can't remember what ship that was on. I guess we'll see if it survives testing here. The main battery guns have flat ballistics but low DPM. The ships also have a high speed. Here we go, though. The Jupiter is the tier 1. Pretty cool name. They've got that Mendez Nunez. This thing actually looks pretty modern for a tier 2. Look at this thing. When you go back and you think about, like, you know, I don't know what a tier 2 cruiser is anymore. Chester? Yeah, you go back and you look at the Chester or like the Novik. They look pretty old school compared to this thing, the Mendez Nunez. Then we've got the Navarra at tier 3. Almirante Cervera at tier 4. Almirante Cervera. These all have these giant Spanish flags on them, which I think look dope. I like the little flags on the turrets too. I'm hoping that just like Bazan, when you put we put another camo on, you get to keep the little flags on the turrets. Asturias here at tier 7. Again, looks pseudo-Italian. Again, those very skinny, close-together guns. Catalunya, Andalusia, and then finally the tier 10 Castilla. Looks pretty dope as well. 51,000 hit points at tier 10, 25 mil plate, 30-second fires. She's got 9 254 millimeter guns. Maximum HE fire damage 3450. Maximum AP is 6150. Look at this velocity though, 945 meters per second and 954 meters per second. Let's see, 8-kilometer torpedoes, 62 knots, nothing fancy there. They've got 2 launchers, each launching 5 torps. Now we've got the German cruiser Schill, which is a tier 8 cruiser. She's got a camo that reminds me of the tier 6 Graf Spee, right? Just a little white patch up front and then kind of a light gray everywhere else. This is a Deutschland class pocket battleship, and if we take a look at the ship stats, the Schill has the same 283 millimeters guns that we see on both Scharnhorst and Graf Spee, and it has 2 3-barrel turrets, so 6 guns, kind of like Graf Spee, but pushed up to tier 8. I like Graf Spee a lot. I don't know if Schill is going to pan out to be just as good as Graf Spee is, at least for players like me who enjoy her. Some folks are not Graf fans, and I get you. That is totally fine with me. Pretty cool. That could be interesting. I'll be watching this one's career with great interest. And then the Van Speijk. I'm going to go with Speijk until somebody tells me otherwise. I should have tuned in and watched the official stream today. I bet you Seraph has said it multiple times. This is a tier 9 cruiser. She looks a lot like the other Dutch cruisers. She's low in the, like the height of the superstructure is not that tall, which is kind of similar to the tier 8 and tier 9 Dutch cruisers. I can't speak to the 10. I don't remember if Leo has a really tall superstructure or not. Anyway, so she's got 203s. And the details of the ship, it says, will be announced at a later date. And then finally, this, when I saw this, my little heart skipped a little beat. This, my friends, looks like, oh crap, I can't remember the name of it. It looks like a Nusra Shimmy, but in the Pan-Asian line. This camo looks rad. These are Nusra turrets, and that is definitely the blocky superstructure of the Nusra Shimmy. In 1949 through 1956, there was a program of scientific and technical assistance between the USSR and the People's Republic of China, under which the Soviets transferred to China, among other things, blueprints of promising warships. Let's take a look at the ship stats. She's got 20,500 hit points. She's got the same 2x2 turret layout with 130 millimeter guns that reloads in 4 seconds, just like Nusra Shimmy, which is pretty cool. The torpedoes are right here. They are dual 5 launchers, 10 kilometers, 65 knots. It does not say deep waters. Looks like regular torpedoes. She's got hydroacoustic search. So this is like a tier 10 Siliwangi. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I implore you. She does have 70-second smoke, just like the German destroyers have. So this is not a very long smoke like you do have with Loyang and Siliwangi. Black Mamba Jamba says, I wonder if it's got the 5.5 kilometer Pan-Asian hydro or not. I wonder that too, and I'm hoping that we will find out more about Lushun very, very soon. With that, folks, we are all done with the news tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this on Twitch, we're going to go back and play a couple more games, and we're going to do a giveaway for a CC container. If you haven't entered to win that already, type !pizza in the chat, and that'll get you entered to win a CC container, which could have all kinds of great stuff in it, like coal or a Massachusetts. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should come hang out with us live. Sometimes we give away prizes like I just described, and we'd love to have you join us at twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive. We do streams over there 3 times a week, and why don't you come hang out with us there if you dare. With all of that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a fantastic time with us tonight, and without further ado, let's get back to the stream. Take it easy, thank you, and goodbye.
This has been the news on Clyde Plays Live.